It's that magical time of the year where we celebrate all things spooky, Halloween. I simply love to indulge in horror movies, TV series, and, of course, horror video games. Playing something like Resident Evil or Silent Hill in a dark room with headphones, good times, good times. But I thought I'd talk about something a little bit different, as I know that not everyone can stand a good scare. Halloween isn't just about being frightened. It's about giant monsters, crafty witches, cool werewolf transformations, and astute vampires. It's about beautiful purple moonlit nights. It's about ghosts. It's about ridiculous, mindless gore. There are games out there that embrace many or all of these things, without trying to actually scare you. In today's Gaming Capsules episode, we present a list of 5 Nintendo Switch games aimed for fans of all things retro, which you should definitely play this Halloween. Night Slashers was a 1993 arcade beat-em-up from Data East. It plays like Final Fight, but it's set in a monsterverse, which borrows elements and settings from various popular horror flicks. That means there's a lot of zombies, werewolves, and vampires that you can punch until they become red soup. It's delightfully gory, in an exaggerated, cartoony way. It's also fairly ridiculous in general. How many other beat-em-ups allow you to ride zombies as if they were a surfboard? The Switch version of Night Slashers is the only time that this game has been ported since the early 90s. However, the port is far from perfect. There's some sound stutter and slowdown. It only happens in one specific segment when playing the game alone, but frequently in 3-player mode. This port also lacks some nice-to-have options, such as being able to play without a filtered image or being able to play the original Japanese version, which had some graphical content cut from the worldwide release, which is kinda sad, considering that there are many arcade titles on the Switch allowing all of these things. Despite these issues, it's a fun pick-up-and-play game for the go, and it's definitely worth trying out any way you can. It's currently available on the Nintendo eShop. If you like old-school Castlevania, you really can't go wrong with Bloodstained Curse of the Moon. The game features a character swapping mechanic, which lets you pick the right team member for the right situation. There are multiple endings and a couple of branching routes, making the title quite replayable. The entire game maintains a creepy, moody vibe, while still featuring catchy chiptune musics and a lot of retro non-stop action. While this game does not get all of the attention that its big sister, Ritual of the Night, gets, it's certainly not a game to miss out on. This one is a digital release, although a limited run physical release also exists. Speaking of Castlevania-like games, well, I'll just sneak the Castlevania Anniversary Collection in here. All of the classic Universal movie monsters are featured as enemies, and you get to explore big gothic castles. The collection contains a nice variety of titles, ranging from old-school action platformers to a Zelda 2-like exploration game. There's even a more kid-friendly game in the form of Kid Dracula, which sees an official release outside of Japan for the very first time in this collection. This one is also a digital-only release, available on the Nintendo eShop. Have you ever seen a movie lately and thought to yourself, man, I wish this movie came out in the 90s? That way, we could have had a cool Super Nintendo game based on it. No? Oh, well, I think this almost all the time. There has to be at least one other person out there who thought the very same thing and then actually decided to make a game based on the movie. The 2017 movie remake of The Mummy, of all things, as a two-dimensional Metroidvania, with guns. The Mummy Demastered features a cool mechanic where if you die, your character turns into a zombie and must be killed by the next character you play as to retrieve your items. The game is a little bit on the short side, but it looks and plays great and could definitely use a sequel. Since it's a licensed game, there's always the possibility that it might be delisted and impossible to purchase in the future. It's currently on sale at a lower price until November in the eShop. Splatterhouse is another gory action game, where you punch and kick your way through settings lifted straight out of horror movie classics, such as the Evil Dead series or Poltergeist. The absolute coolest aspect of this game is that you're not just a puny, underpowered victim who needs to survive all this hell. No, we have enough movies and games dealing with that already. Instead, you're basically in control of a Jason Voorhees or Michael Myers type, a superhuman. He even wears Jason's hockey mask to make sure you know he means business. Seriously, the protagonist, Rick Taylor, is not someone you wanna mess with. He can punch flying kitchen knives out of the air and all manner of deadly looking monsters, no problem. His signature move is grabbing a 2x4 to splatter enemies all over the wall with. Splatterhouse can be played on the Switch as part of the Namco Arcade Pack, which also includes another title that rarely gets ported, Rolling Thunder 2. It's available on the Switch, both physically and digitally on the Nintendo eShop. In Mary Skelter's universe, blood is pink. And there's so much pink. Pink gets splashed on the walls, pink gets splashed all over your characters, heck, it gets splashed all over the screen when you hit enemies. It's a bloody good time. Mary Skelter is a first-person dungeon crawler, very similar to the Etrian Odyssey games on the DS or old-school classics like Wizardry and Shining in the Darkness. This one features protagonists lifted straight out of classic storybooks like Red Riding Hood and The Little Mermaid, here trapped in a trippy, horror-inspired world with mansions, caverns, and prisons. While the game isn't really out to scare you, it does feature some interesting, grotesque-looking monsters, which look like they came straight out of a classic horror manga. It also introduces a lot of really interesting and refreshing gameplay mechanics. For example, each one of your characters have field abilities which allow them to interact with the world, to solve puzzles or open paths. You can throw things, shoot at things, lure objects towards you, freeze liquids, etc. There are also traps which force you to time your movements, such as floor spikes or swinging ropes that you have to jump on and off of. While the game gives you a set pool of characters, you can customize your team by changing their job class. In fights, your characters can have enemy blood splashed on them to become more powerful and gain access to new skills. But If they get hit too much and become unstable, they just go berserk instead and start attacking friends and foes. You're also joined by a monster that can purify your characters, but if you use him too much, then he turns evil and attacks you as well. You can choose to not max out the blood splash altogether by having characters lick the blood off of each other, which grants benefits such as magic barriers or healing. Basically, everything in battles give you choices, which keeps them exciting and meaningful. Meanwhile, the dungeon's bosses chase after you, and you must flee from them or avoid them until you find the means of taking them down. They can even enter battles if you land on one while being chased. By the way, the dungeon you traverse itself is a living creature with its own moods, and satisfying its many desires by the actions you take will give you various bonuses. Now, do note that this game is rated M for mature audiences and contains some sexy content that might make it difficult to play on the go. That said, a lot of it is skippable, and this game is perfect for the portable format if you want to grind for experience or collectibles. The Switch version of Mary Skelter 2, which released on the Nintendo eShop last week, is an incredible value. Purchasing the game also nets you the entire first game as a free DLC. It's currently available digitally, but there will be a physical release from Limited Run Games. They will be taking pre-orders for it in late November. That's it for this list of Halloween-themed games for retro fans that are not meant to be scary. Do you have any other such games that you'd like to recommend? Let us know in the comment section below. Well, happy Halloween, and until next time.